Station Meridian floated in the darkness between star systems, a massive wheel of metal and light where dozens of alien species came to trade and talk. Lieutenant Daniel Hayes walked through the main plaza with his daughter's small hand tucked safely in his own. 8-year-old Emma skipped beside him, her eyes wide as she stared at the strange creatures moving through the crowd. "Daddy, look at that one," Emma whispered, pointing at a tall being covered in blue scales. "It has 4 arms." "Remember what I told you," Daniel said gently. "It's not polite to point, but yes, they're very good engineers." Emma nodded seriously, then squeezed his hand. "When do I get to meet the bug people?" Daniel smiled despite himself. His daughter had been asking about this since she arrived on the station 3 days ago. They were attending a diplomatic reception tonight, and the insect-like aliens would be there. He had his doubts about bringing Emma, but she had begged to see more of station life. His commanding officer, Captain Lane, had assured him the event would be safe and educational. "Tonight," Daniel said, "but you have to promise to be on your best behavior." "I promise," Emma said, holding up her pinky finger. Daniel linked his pinky with hers, and they shook on it. The reception hall glittered with lights from a dozen different worlds. Long tables held food from various planets, though most of it looked strange to human eyes. Daniel kept Emma close as they entered. He wore his dress uniform, dark blue with silver insignia. Emma had insisted on wearing her favorite yellow dress, the one that twirled when she spun. Captain Lane spotted them immediately and waved them over. He was a thick man with gray hair and kind eyes. "Lieutenant Hayes, glad you could make it, and this must be Emma." "Hello, sir," Emma said politely, exactly as her father had taught her. "She's got your manners, Daniel," Lane said with a chuckle. "The delegation is over by the far windows. Ambassador wanted to meet our human representatives." Daniel felt a slight unease but pushed it down. There were important trade partners. This was just a social event. He guided Emma through the crowd, nodding to familiar faces. Dr. Lisa Morgan, the station's human pediatrician, gave Emma a warm smile as they passed. Ambassador stood near a floor-to-ceiling window that showed the stars beyond. It was nearly 7 feet tall, with a hard shell that gleamed dark green under the lights. 4 arms folded across its thorax, and its compound eyes reflected the room in thousands of tiny images. 2 others flanked the ambassador, smaller and quieter. "Ambassador," Daniel said, stopping at a respectful distance. "I'm Lieutenant Daniel Hayes. This is my daughter, Emma." The ambassador's head tilted, studying them both. When it spoke, its voice came through a translator device that made the words sound flat and emotionless. "A human child. I have read about your young, but this is my first time seeing one in person." Emma stared up at the tall alien with open curiosity. "You look like a really big grasshopper," she said. "We have those on Earth. They jump really far." Daniel felt his stomach drop, but simply made a clicking sound. "Grasshopper. Yes, I am aware of this Earth insect. We are not related, but I understand the comparison." The next 20 minutes passed smoothly enough. Emma asked questions about the home world, about their ships, about what they ate. Answered with what seemed like patience, though Daniel couldn't read emotion in the alien's posture. Other guests drifted closer, interested in the unusual sight of a human child interacting so freely with the normally reserved. Then it happened. Emma had been reaching for a glass of juice from a nearby table. Her small hand bumped the glass, and purple liquid splashed across the white tablecloth. A few drops landed on the data pad that had set down, the one containing important trade route information. "I'm sorry," Emma gasped, her eyes going wide. "I didn't mean to. I'm really sorry." Daniel was already moving, reaching for napkins. "It's all right, sweetheart. Accidents happen." But moved faster than Daniel would have thought possible. One of the ambassador's 4 arms lashed out, striking Emma across the face with the back of its hard, chitinous hand. The sound echoed through the sudden silence. Emma fell backward, landing hard on the floor. Blood ran from a cut on her cheek where sharp exoskeleton had split the skin. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Daniel stared at his daughter on the floor, at the red blood on her yellow dress, at the way she touched her face with shaking fingers. Something cold settled into his chest, something that had nothing to do with thinking and everything to do with instinct older than civilization. The entire room had gone silent. Every conversation died. Every human in the hall turned to look. Dr. Morgan dropped the glass she was holding. It shattered on the floor, but nobody looked at it. This is what happens when inferior beings interrupt important work, said calmly, picking up the data pad to check for damage. Perhaps now the child will learn proper behavior. Daniel knelt beside Emma, checking her injury with hands that didn't shake. Not yet. He kept his voice very calm, very quiet. It's okay, baby, you're okay. Dr. Morgan is going to take care of you. Lisa was already there, medical scanner in hand, her face pale but professional. She scooped Emma up gently. Come on, sweetie, let's get you to the medical bay. Emma was crying now, confused and hurt and scared. Daddy. I'll be right there, Daniel promised. He kissed her forehead and watched Lisa carry her away. Then he stood up and turned to face Ambassador. Every human in the room was watching him. Every single one had stopped what they were doing. Their faces showed the same expression, the same terrible understanding. Captain Lane was already at the communication panel, speaking quickly and quietly into his comm device. Ambassador, Daniel said, his voice was still calm. That was important. You have made a terrible mistake. I have corrected a clumsy child, replied. This is standard practice on my world. The young must learn. That wasn't a child, Daniel said. That was a human child, my child. The distinction is meaningless, said. Children are children, weak, illogical, requiring discipline. Around the room, other alien species were starting to sense that something was very wrong. The way the humans stood, the way they looked at the delegation, the absolute silence that had fallen over them. Captain Lane finished his communication and walked over. His face could have been carved from stone. Ambassador, I am placing you under station arrest pending investigation of assault on a minor. This is absurd, said. I claim diplomatic immunity. You cannot arrest me for disciplining a misbehaving child. Watch me, Lane said quietly. The two companions moved to flank their ambassador, their postures defensive. Through the windows, the running lights of ships could be seen moving in the darkness. More than usual, many more. I demand immediate transport back to my vessel, said. This matter is closed. No, Daniel said. The word came out flat, final. This matter has just begun. He turned and walked out of the reception hall. He needed to check on Emma. He needed to see that she was all right. But as he left, he could hear Captain Lane giving orders. Seal the station. Nobody leaves. Send word to Earth Command. Tell them what happened. Sir, someone asked, what exactly should we tell them? Lane's response was quiet but clear. Tell them I struck a human child. They'll understand what that means. In the medical bay, Emma sat on an exam table while Dr. Morgan cleaned and sealed the cut on her cheek. The injury wasn't serious. It would heal completely, but that didn't matter. What mattered was that it had happened at all. Daniel held his daughter's hand and felt the cold thing in his chest spreading. Soon, he knew, the news traveled fast, too fast for them to control it. Within an hour, every human on Station Meridian knew what had happened. Within 2 hours, the information had reached the nearest human colony. By the 3rd hour, Earth Command had received a full report, including medical scans of Emma's injury and security footage of the incident. Ambassador sat in a comfortable holding room, surrounded by station security. They seemed unbothered by the situation. Through the translator's voice remained calm and logical. This is a serious overreaction, the ambassador said to Captain Lane. I understand humans are emotional about their young, but this is excessive, a minor correction for minor misbehavior. Lane stood with his arms crossed, his face unreadable. You don't understand what you've done. I understand perfectly, replied. I disciplined a child who damaged important diplomatic materials. On my world, this would barely merit discussion. This isn't your world, Lane said quietly. In the medical bay, Emma sat with a patch on her cheek, eating ice cream that Dr. Morgan had provided. The cut would leave no scar. The medical technology was too good for that. But Emma kept touching the patch with careful fingers, still confused about why the tall alien had hit her. Did I do something really bad, Daddy? She asked. Daniel sat beside her, one arm around her shoulders. No, baby, you made a small accident, that's all. Then why did he hit me? How could he explain this to an 8-year-old? How could he tell her that some species didn't value children the way humans did? That some aliens saw young ones as incomplete, unimportant, expendable? Because he doesn't understand, Daniel said finally, but he's going to learn. Emma leaned against him. I don't like him. You don't have to, Daniel said, kissing the top of her head. Dr. Morgan finished her documentation, triple-checking every scan, every image, every measurement of the injury. This wasn't just medical care anymore. This was evidence. She sent the complete file to Earth Command, to the Human Diplomatic Corps, to the Colonial Defense Force. Across the station, other humans were making their own preparations. Engineer, who had been at the reception, quietly accessed the security systems, not to do anything. Not yet. Just to make sure he could if needed. In the docking bays, human crew members checked weapons that were supposed to stay locked away except in emergencies. This qualified as an emergency. In the station's communication center, messages poured in from human ships and colonies across 3 sectors, all of them asking the same questions. Is it true? Did they hurt a child? What are we going to do about it? The Galactic Council convened an emergency session in their chamber on the station's upper levels. Representatives from 24 species gathered around the circular table, their various forms of confusion and concern evident despite the differences in biology. Council representative, an avian species known for their wisdom, addressed the room. We must understand the situation before it grows worse. The humans have placed one of their most important trade partners under arrest. They have sealed the station. Their military vessels are converging on this location. Over a child's minor injury, said the representative, an older female named. Ambassador acted within normal parameters of discipline. This human reaction is irrational. Is it? Asked. Have any of you studied human culture regarding their young? The chamber fell silent. Most species gave their children some level of protection, but it was usually practical, based on the resources invested in raising offspring to maturity. Children were valuable but replaceable. Humans are different, continued. I have been reviewing their history. They will sacrifice everything for their children. Everything. Cities, armies, entire civilizations have fallen because someone threatened a human child. Surely you exaggerate, said. I do not, replied. I suggest you begin studying human history immediately, before this situation becomes worse. In deep space, the USS Defiance dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. The warship was massive, bristling with weapons, painted in the dark gray that human military vessels favored. On the bridge, Captain Sanders studied the displays showing station meridian. Time to station, she asked. 12 hours at current speed, Captain, her navigator replied. Any other ships in the area? 7 more human vessels inbound from different vectors, mix of military and civilian. The civilian ships are requesting weapon authorizations. Nodded slowly. Grant them. Emergency protocols. Make sure they know the rules of engagement, though. Nobody fires unless fired upon. She touched the comm button on her chair. All hands, this is the captain. You've all heard what happened. A diplomat struck a human child, a little girl. She's going to be fine physically, but that's not the point. The point is that it happened at all. She paused, choosing her words carefully. We're not going there to start a war. We're going there to make sure everyone understands that this can never happen again. Stay sharp, stay ready, and remember what we're protecting. Back on the station, Commander Foster arrived at the holding area where waited. She was a tall woman with short, dark hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. She carried a data pad and sat down across from the without asking permission. I'm Commander Foster, human military to the Galactic Council, she said. I'm here to explain your situation. My situation is simple, replied. I am being illegally detained for performing a normal act of discipline. Let me show you something, said. She activated her data pad, displaying a star map. Red dots began appearing across it. 1, then 5, then 20, then hundreds. Each of these dots is a human ship that has altered course in the last 4 hours. Military vessels, colony defense ships, private craft, cargo haulers, all of them are heading toward either this station or toward space. Studied the display. Why? Because you hit a human child, said simply, and now every human within 6 sectors knows about it. This is madness, said. It was one child, one minor injury. Surely your species has more important concerns. Leaned forward. We have exactly one concern right now, Ambassador, making sure everyone in the galaxy understands what happens when someone hurts our children. She pulled up another file. In the past 6 hours, Earth Command has received over 10,000 requests from human colony worlds. They're all asking the same thing. They want to know if we're going to war over this. And they're all saying that if we do, they'll support it. Every single one. For the first time seemed uncertain. War over this? That would be completely irrational. Would it? Asked. Let me tell you about human history. 300 years ago on Earth, there was a small town where someone kidnapped a child. Just one child from one small town. Do you know what happened? Didn't answer. The entire region mobilized, continued. Thousands of people stopped everything they were doing. They searched for weeks. They didn't stop until they found her. And when they found the person who took her, the law had to protect him from the mob that wanted to tear him apart. She pulled up another file. That same pattern has repeated throughout human history. Touch our children and nothing else matters. Not money, not politics, not our own safety. We will find you and there will be consequences. But this is the modern age, protested. Surely you have evolved past such primitive responses. Have we? Asked. She stood up. In the next few hours, you're going to see exactly how evolved we are, and I don't think you're going to like it. She left the room, leaving alone with the star map still showing. The red dots continued to multiply. In the medical bay, Emma had fallen asleep, exhausted from crying and confusion. Daniel sat beside her bed, holding her hand. Dr. Morgan brought him coffee and sat down nearby. 7 warships so far, she said quietly. More coming. The word is spreading to every human community in known space. I didn't ask for this, Daniel said. You didn't have to, Lisa replied. It's who we are. Someone hurt your little girl. That makes it everyone's problem. Daniel looked at Emma's sleeping face at the patch on her cheek. Is that wrong? Is it wrong to care this much? I don't know, Lisa admitted. But I know I feel it too. When I saw her fall, when I saw the blood, something in me just switched on, like a light I didn't know was there. Every human on this station felt it, Daniel said. I could see it in their faces. The Galactic Council chamber filled with tension as Dr. Clark stepped to the central platform. He was a human, brought in specifically to explain what the alien representatives were witnessing. His gray hair and calm manner usually put others at ease, but today his presence seemed to make the aliens more nervous. Thank you for allowing me to speak, began. I understand that many of you are confused by humanity's response to the incident involving Emma Hayes. I'm here to help you understand. We are not confused, Council representative said, her translator giving her voice a sharp edge. We are concerned. Humans are mobilizing military forces over a child's minor injury. This is clearly excessive. Nodded slowly. To you, it seems excessive. To humans, it seems necessary. Let me explain why. He activated a holographic display showing Earth. Humans evolved on a dangerous world. You all know this. What you might not know is how this affected our relationship with our children. The display shifted to show early humans living in caves, surrounded by predators. Human children are born helpless, completely helpless. They cannot walk for nearly a year. They cannot feed themselves. They cannot defend themselves. For the first decade of their lives, they are vulnerable to everything. Many species have vulnerable young, said. This is not unique. True, agreed. But most species have many offspring. Humans typically have one child at a time, sometimes 2, rarely more. And it takes us 15 to 20 years to raise a child to independence. We invest more time, more resources, more energy into each child than almost any other known species. He changed the display to show brain scans. But it's more than just investment. Something happened in human evolution. Our brains developed specific structures dedicated to child protection. When a human sees a child in danger, particularly their own child, their brain doesn't ask questions. It doesn't calculate costs and benefits. It simply acts. Surely rational thought can override this, another council member suggested. Can it? Asked. He pulled up historical records. Let me show you examples. In Earth year 1987, a woman in a city called New York lifted a car off her trapped child. The car weighed over 2,000 kilograms. She cracked 3 ribs and tore muscles in both arms, but she lifted it anyway because her child was underneath. He showed another record. In 2156, a colony ship was attacked by raiders. The adult humans formed a wall around their children. They fought with tools, with furniture, with their bare hands. 70% of the adults died. Every single child survived. The council chamber was silent now. There's a term in human psychology, continued. Mama bear or papa bear syndrome. It refers to the fact that humans become incredibly dangerous when their children are threatened. We lose our usual caution. We stop thinking about our own survival. The only thing that matters is protecting the child. This is a psychological disorder, insisted, not normal behavior. It's not a disorder, said firmly. It's a feature. It's why humanity survived on a death world long enough to reach the stars. The humans who protected their children at all costs were the ones whose children lived to have children of their own. Over millions of years, this instinct became hardwired into our brains. He pulled up another display, this one showing chemical reactions. When a human sees their child harmed, their body floods with adrenaline, cortisol, and other stress hormones. Their heart rate increases. Blood flow shifts to major muscle groups. Pain tolerance increases. Rational thought decreases. They become, essentially, a weapon pointed at whatever threatened their child. And when many humans see a child harmed? Asked quietly. Then you get what you're seeing now, said. You get a species-wide response. Every human who heard about Emma Hayes had that same chemical reaction, every single one. From Earth to the furthest colonies, humans are right now experiencing the same protective instinct. He paused, making sure everyone understood. Ambassador didn't just strike a child, activated a trigger that exists in every human brain, a trigger that says, threat to child, eliminate threat, protect at all costs. So humans cannot control this, another representative asked. We can, said, but it takes enormous effort, and most humans don't want to control it. We're proud of this instinct. We think it makes us better, not worse. Junior diplomat Sophie Turner stepped forward. She was young, in her 20s, and she looked exhausted. I've been in contact with Earth Command for the past 6 hours, she said. They've authorized me to share the current situation. She activated her own display. It showed the space around Station Meridian. 37 human ships now surrounded the station, with more arriving every hour. This is just the local response, Sophie continued. Across human space, colony defense forces are mobilizing. Civilian vessels are being armed. We estimate that within 72 hours, humanity will have over 500 combat-capable ships ready for deployment. Deployment where? Demanded. That depends on you, Sophie said, looking directly at the representative. If Ambassador is surrendered to human justice, if your government accepts responsibility for what happened, if you agree to new protocols regarding interactions with human children, then those ships stand down. And if we refuse? Sophie's face went hard. Then they deploy to space, every single one, and they keep coming until we get justice for Emma Hayes. The council chamber erupted in shocked voices. Multiple representatives spoke at once, their translators creating a cacophony of sound. Raised a wing for silence. You would go to war over one child's injury? Asked. Yes, Sophie said simply. I know it doesn't make sense to you. Dr. Clark just explained why it makes sense to us. We're not asking you to understand it. We're asking you to accept it as fact. Stepped forward again. Let me be very clear about something. This is not a bluff. This is not a negotiating tactic. Every human in known space right now wants the same thing. They want to make sure this never happens again. If that requires war, they will support war. But the cost, protested. The lives lost, the resources spent, the damage to trade and diplomacy, all of this for one child who will heal completely. The child isn't the point anymore, said. The point is the principle. You violated our most sacred value. You hurt something we protect above all else. If we let that pass without consequences, what message does that send? That it's okay to hurt human children, that we don't really mean it when we say they're precious to us. He shook his head. No, we mean it, and we'll prove it if we have to. A soft alert chimed in the chamber. Sophie checked her data pad and her face went pale. Admiral Stephen Grant has arrived in the system, she announced. He's requesting permission to address this council. Grant repeated, the commander of the Third Fleet. Yes, Sophie confirmed. He's here with 12 warships, and he's not alone. Civilian vessels from 3 different sectors have joined his fleet. The council had no choice but to agree. 30 minutes later, Admiral Stephen Grant stood before them. He was an older man in his 60s, with silver hair and a face carved by decades of military service. He wore his dress uniform, and every medal on his chest represented a battle fought, a crisis survived. Council representatives, Grant said, his voice carrying easily through the chamber. I come bearing a message from Earth Command and from the Human Colonial Congress. They are united in their position. He activated a display showing official seals and signatures. Humanity demands the following. First, Ambassador must be surrendered to human custody to face charges of assault on a minor. Second, the government must issue a formal apology and accept full responsibility. Third, new galactic protocols must be established making it clear that harming any species' children will result in severe consequences. And if we refuse these demands? Asked. Grant's expression didn't change. Then I am authorized to begin military operations against interests, blockades of trade routes, seizure of vessels in neutral space, if necessary, direct action against military installations. This is insane, said. You would destroy decades of peaceful cooperation over this. In a heartbeat, Grant said. And I'm not alone in thinking that. Every human fleet commander has volunteered for this operation. Every colony has pledged support. Every civilian militia has mobilized. We are absolutely united on this. He stepped closer to the representative. You need to understand something. I have 3. The youngest is 6 years old. When I heard what Ambassador did, when I saw the images of that little girl bleeding, something in me changed. I stopped seeing this as politics or diplomacy. I saw it as an attack on every human child in the galaxy. Including yours, said quietly. Including mine, Grant confirmed. And I will do whatever it takes to make sure no alien ever thinks they can hurt a human child without facing the full weight of human anger. Spoke carefully. Admiral, I believe we all understand humanity's position now, but surely there must be room for negotiation, for finding a path that doesn't lead to war. There is, Grant said. It's simple, give us, accept responsibility, agree to protect children of all species, do those 3 things and this ends peacefully. You're giving us an ultimatum, said. Yes, Grant agreed. You have 24 hours to decide. After that, I begin implementing sanctions. After 48 hours, if we still don't have agreement, stronger measures will follow. He looked around the chamber at all the assembled representatives. I want to be clear, this isn't about revenge. This is about setting a standard. Children are off limits. All children everywhere from every species. We're willing to enforce that standard. Are you willing to accept it? The council session ended soon after. As the representatives filed out, approached Dr. Clark quietly. Is what the Admiral said true? The avian asked. Are all humans really united on this? Nodded, yes. I've been monitoring communications across human space. The response is unanimous. From Earth to the outer colonies, humans want justice for Emma. I've never seen our species so completely in agreement. Home fleet arrived in the system 18 hours after Admiral Grant's ultimatum. 16 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, their weapons powered but not aimed. They took up position opposite the human fleet, with Station Meridian caught between them. On the bridge of the USS Defiance, Captain Sanders watched the new arrivals with a calm that her crew found both reassuring and terrifying. She had fought in 3 major conflicts during her career. She knew what war looked like. This was starting to look like war. Analysis, she asked her tactical officer. Ships are older models, Captain. Their weapons are powerful but short range. They're designed for defensive operations, not deep space combat. They're sending a message, said, showing strength without actually threatening us. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the flagship. Nodded on screen. The shifted to show a military commander. The translator made its voice sound clipped and formal. Human vessel, this is Fleet Commander of the Defense Force. We are here to escort Ambassador home. We do not seek conflict. Commander replied. Ambassador is currently being held under station authority pending resolution of serious charges. We cannot allow the ambassador to leave. You have no authority over a diplomat, said. Release ambassador immediately or face the consequences. Leaned forward slightly. Commander, I suggest you speak with your government before making threats. The situation is more serious than you understand. The transmission ended, turned to her communications officer. Get me Admiral Grant. Within minutes, Grant's face appeared on a side screen. He was on the bridge of his own flagship, looking tired but determined. Captain Sanders, report. The fleet has arrived, sir. 16 ships. They're demanding release and making veiled threats. Grant nodded slowly. I expected this. Have our reinforcements arrived? Yes, sir, we now have 42 military vessels and 26 armed civilian ships. More are arriving every hour. Good, Grant said, because I just received word from Earth Command. If they don't agree to our terms within the next 6 hours, we're authorized to begin the blockade. On Station Meridian, Defense Coordinator Jake Phillips was organizing the evacuation of non-human civilians. Thousands of aliens from dozens of species were boarding ships, desperate to leave before the shooting started. Jake watched them go with mixed feelings. Part of him was glad they were safe. Part of him wondered if they understood why this was happening. Sir, one of his staff called out. We have a problem. The families won't leave. They say their children are friends with human children on the station and they're staying. Jake walked over to where a group of blue-scaled stood with their offspring. The adults stood protectively around their young ones, much like humans would. You need to evacuate, Jake said gently. This could become dangerous. The oldest shook her head. We understand what happened. We understand why you are angry. On our world, we also protect our children fiercely. We stand with you. Jake felt something in his chest tighten. Thank you, but I can't guarantee your safety. We know, they said, but we stay anyway, because what was done to Emma Hayes was wrong, and because if we run now, we teach our children that it's okay to abandon friends when things get hard. Jake nodded and moved on. He had too much to do to argue with people who were on his side. In the Galactic Council chamber, Ambassador Wei stood before the assembled representatives. She was a veteran diplomat, someone who had negotiated peace treaties and trade agreements across dozens of worlds. But today, her voice carried an edge that the Council had never heard before. I am here to deliver humanity's final position, said. We have been clear about our demands. Ambassador must face justice. The government must accept responsibility. New protocols must be established to protect all children. These demands are unreasonable, protested. You ask us to surrender our diplomatic immunity, to admit wrongdoing for what we consider normal discipline, and to accept restrictions on our behavior. Yes, said simply. That's exactly what we're asking, because what you consider normal, we consider monstrous. She activated a display showing human colony worlds. I want you to see something. This is New Terra, a farming colony with a population of 50,000. They have 12 children under the age of 10. The entire colony has voted to support military action if necessary. They're willing to risk their own safety, their own prosperity, to make sure those 12 children are protected. Another colony appeared. This is Haven Station, a mining operation in the Outer Rim. 1,500 people, 8 children, same vote, same willingness to fight. More colonies flashed across the screen, one after another. This is playing out across every human settlement in known space. Big colonies, small outposts, orbital stations, deep space vessels, all of them saying the same thing, protect the children, at any cost. This is madness, said, but her voice lacked conviction now. Is it? Asked. Or is it the most sane thing we could possibly do? What kind of species would we be if we didn't protect our most vulnerable members? What kind of civilization allows its children to be harmed without consequences? She leaned on the podium. You keep calling this an overreaction, but consider this. If we let Ambassador leave without punishment, what happens the next time an alien strikes a human child? What happens when word spreads that there are no real consequences? How many more Emmas have to bleed before we say enough? Spoke quietly. Ambassador, I believe most of us understand humanity's position, but surely there must be a compromise, some middle ground where both sides can save face. There is no middle ground on this, said firmly. You either protect children or you don't. You either hold people accountable for harming them or you don't. We're drawing a line right here, right now, and everyone in the galaxy needs to know which side of that line they're on. She pulled up another display, this one showing economic data. I've been authorized to share this information. In the past 24 hours, human colonies have begun recalling their trade contracts with species that haven't publicly supported our position. 17 species have already seen their trade with humanity reduced by 30%. By tomorrow, that number will be higher. You're using economic warfare, another representative said. We're using every tool we have, confirmed. Trade, diplomacy, military pressure, all of it, because this is that important to us. She looked directly at, I know you think we're being irrational. I know this doesn't make sense to your species, but I need you to understand something. Humans will give up comfort, safety, prosperity, and peace to protect our children. We will do it gladly. We will do it without hesitation. And we will not stop until we're satisfied that our children are safe. Back on the USS Defiance received an unexpected communication. It was from a ship, but not from Commander. The officer on screen was younger with darker shell coloring. Captain Sanders, my name is Sub-Commander. I am second in command of our fleet. I need to speak with you privately. Gestured for her crew to give her privacy. Go ahead, Sub-Commander. What Ambassador did was wrong, said bluntly. Many of us in the fleet believe this. We have been studying human culture since this incident began. We understand now what we did not understand before. And what's that? Asked. That you mean what you say about your children, replied. That this is not negotiation or posturing, that you will actually fight over this. Nodded, we will. Our government does not believe you, continued. They think you are bluffing, that eventually you will accept some face-saving compromise and move on. They do not understand that you cannot move on from this. Can you make them understand? Asked. I am trying, said. But I am young and junior. My voice does not carry weight. However, there are others in our fleet who agree with me. Officers who have served alongside humans, who have human friends, who understand what it means to threaten something you love. What are you suggesting? Asked carefully. I am suggesting that not all support what Ambassador did, said. And I am suggesting that if your admiral wants to speak with members of our fleet who might convince our government to accept your terms, I can arrange that. Considered this. I'll pass that information along. Thank you for reaching out, Sub-Commander. After the transmission ended, immediately contacted Admiral Grant. Within the hour, secret communications were established between human commanders and sympathetic officers. The conversations were careful, feeling out positions, testing possibilities. In the medical bay, Emma was feeling much better. The cut on her cheek had healed to nothing more than a pink line that would fade completely in a few days. She sat on the bed, drawing pictures with digital crayons that Dr. Morgan had provided. Daniel sat with her, as he had for most of the past day. He hadn't left the medical bay except for brief meetings with Captain Lane and Admiral Grant. Emma was his priority. Everything else was secondary. Daddy, Emma said, not looking up from her drawing. Why are there so many ships outside? Daniel had known this question would come eventually. Because people are upset about what happened to you. The big bug man hitting me. Yes. Emma thought about this for a moment. But I'm okay now. The doctor fixed me. I know, baby, Daniel said. But sometimes people need to make sure something bad doesn't happen again. They need to show that it's not okay to hurt kids. Any kids? Emma asked. Or just human kids? Daniel smiled despite himself. His daughter was smart. Any kids, but especially human kids because we're human and we take care of our own. Emma nodded and went back to her drawing. She was making a picture of the station with lots of tiny ships around it. Some were labeled with careful lettering. USS Defiance. Home. Safe. Daddy, Emma said after a while. I forgive the bug man. He was mean, but I don't want people to fight about it. Daniel felt his eyes burn. He pulled his daughter close. That's very kind of you, sweetheart, but some things are bigger than forgiveness. Some things are about making sure you and other kids like you stay safe. Okay, Emma said, accepting this in the way children do. Can I have more ice cream? You can have whatever you want, Daniel promised. The final hour before Admiral Grant's deadline arrived with the weight of history behind it. On both sides of the standoff, commanders checked their weapons and made peace with what might come next. Nobody wanted war, but everyone was prepared for it. Then something unexpected happened. On the flagship, Sub-Commander walked into Commander's ready room flanked by 6 other officers. All of them were young, all of them had served with humans before, and all of them carried the same determined expression. Commander said formally, we need to talk about Ambassador. Turned from the viewport, his compound eyes reflecting the lights of the human fleet beyond. What is there to discuss? We are here to retrieve our diplomat. That is our mission. With respect, Commander, that mission will lead to war, said. A war we cannot win, a war we should not fight. You presume much, Sub-Commander, said coldly. I presume nothing, replied. I have studied the humans. I have fought beside them against pirates. I have seen what they are capable of when they are merely doing their duty. I have not yet seen what they are capable of when they are protecting their children, but I do not want to find out. One of the other officers stepped forward. Commander, we have done an analysis of the human fleet. They have 70 ships now, more arriving every hour. If we engage, we will be destroyed. Even if we take some of them with us, we will lose. Then we die with honor, said. For what? Demanded. For a diplomat who struck a child, who violated every rule of civilized conduct, who has brought shame to our entire species. His posture stiffened. You would surrender to human demands. I would prevent unnecessary death, said. Commander, please contact our government. Tell them what we see here. Tell them that the humans are not bluffing. Tell them that we need to accept their terms. For a long moment said nothing. Then slowly the commander moved to the communication console. I will speak to the High Council, but I make no promises. The conversation that followed lasted 20 minutes. The High Council, safely distant from the confrontation, argued that accepting human demands would show weakness. Commander, who could see human weapons aimed at his ships, argued that refusing would show stupidity. In the end, it was not logic that swayed them, it was fear. The High Council had been receiving their own reports of human ships gathering, reports of human colonies mobilizing, reports of human civilian vessels being armed and armored. The sheer scale of the human response had finally broken through their dismissive attitude. They were dealing with a species that would actually go to war over a single injured child. That changed everything. 30 minutes before the deadline, the government transmitted their decision to Station Meridian. Ambassador Wei received it first, read it carefully, and then walked to the Galactic Council chamber with measured steps. The chamber was packed. Every representative was present, along with observers from dozens of species. The tension was thick enough to taste. Walked to the central podium and activated the display. The government has transmitted their response, she announced. They have agreed to all human demands. The chamber erupted in shocked voices, waited for silence before continuing. Ambassador will be surrendered to human custody to face charges of assault on a minor. The government accepts full responsibility for the incident and issues a formal apology to Emma Hayes, to her family, and to all of humanity. And they support the creation of new galactic protocols protecting children of all species. She paused, letting that sink in. Additionally, the government has offered to pay all medical expenses, though I can tell you right now that humanity will refuse that payment. This was never about money. Stood slowly. The representative looked older somehow, diminished. On behalf of my government and my people, I apologize. We did not understand. We should have listened. We should have learned before it came to this. You should have, agreed, but you're learning now, that's what matters. On the USS Defiance, received word of the surrender with a mixture of relief and satisfaction. She immediately transmitted to all human ships. Stand down from combat readiness. Maintain defensive positions but power down weapons. They have agreed to our terms. Across the human fleet, crews cheered. Not because they had won a war, but because they had won without fighting one. The message had been sent. The line had been drawn. Everyone in the galaxy now understood what happened when you harmed a human child. Admiral Grant addressed the fleet over open channels. All ships, this is Admiral Grant. The government has surrendered Ambassador to our custody. They have accepted responsibility and agreed to new protections for all children. This is a victory for humanity and for civilized behavior everywhere. He paused, his voice becoming softer. I know many of you were prepared to fight today. I know you came here ready to give everything to protect a little girl you've never met. That says something important about who we are as a species. Be proud of that. Go home to your families knowing that you stood up for what matters most. The transfer of Ambassador happened with formal precision. Guards brought the former diplomat to a neutral docking bay where human military police waited. Looked different somehow. Smaller. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like fear. You understand the charges against you? Admiral Grant asked. I understand, said through the translator. I did not understand before, but I understand now. Do you understand what you did wrong? Grant pressed. His head lowered. I struck a child. I harmed something precious. I violated a trust that should never be broken. I have brought shame to my people and myself. Yes, Grant said. You did all of that, and now you'll face the consequences. was taken away to await trial. The process would be public, transparent, and fair. Humans wanted justice, not revenge, but they wanted everyone to see that justice being done. In the medical bay, Daniel finally received permission to take Emma home. Dr. Morgan did a final scan, confirmed that the injury had healed completely, and released them with a smile. "She's going to be fine," Lisa said. "Physically and mentally, kids are resilient." "Thanks to you," Daniel said. "Thanks to everyone," Lisa corrected. "Thanks to every human who made it clear that our children matter, that they're worth protecting, that we won't tolerate anyone hurting them." Emma was busy packing her small bag, carefully folding her yellow dress despite the bloodstains that hadn't quite washed out. She would keep it, Daniel knew. Years from now, she would look at it and remember this moment, though she would never fully understand the scale of what had happened because of her. As they left the medical bay, Emma took her father's hand. "Daddy, can we visit again soon? I liked seeing the different aliens, even the bug people, though not the mean one." Daniel laughed despite himself. "Maybe, but next time we'll be more careful about which receptions we attend." They walked through the station toward their quarters. All around them, human crew members nodded or saluted or just smiled. Emma thought they were being nice. Daniel knew they were acknowledging what this moment meant. A child was going home safe. That was what mattered. 3 weeks later, the Galactic Council formally adopted the Child Protection Protocols. The document was simple and clear. Any being who deliberately harmed a child of any species would face severe consequences. Those consequences would be enforced by the combined forces of all member species. But everyone knew that humans would be watching most carefully. The protocols became required reading for all diplomats, all traders, all travelers moving through galactic space. New species joining the community received special briefings. The briefings all included the same story, the story of Ambassador and Emma Hayes, the story of what happened when someone made the mistake of striking a human child. Dr. Clark ended up writing a comprehensive guide to human protective instincts. It became the most read document in the galactic database. Other species studied it carefully, not just to avoid problems with humans, but to understand a different way of valuing children. Some species began changing their own attitudes. The who had already protected their young fiercely became close allies with humanity on child welfare issues. Other species started investing more in their children's education, health, and safety. The ripple effects spread across the galaxy. 6 months after the incident, Station Meridian hosted another diplomatic reception. This time, dozens of children attended. Human children, even young whose parents wanted them to learn from the past. They played together under the watchful eyes of adults from multiple species. Emma was there with her father. The scar on her cheek had faded to nothing. She ran and laughed with other children, completely unaware that she had changed the galaxy. Daniel watched her play, and for the first time since the incident, he felt truly peaceful. Captain Lane approached him with 2 glasses of something that looked like champagne but tasted like apples. "Your daughter is famous, you know. They're teaching about her in classes across 3 sectors." "She doesn't need to know that," Daniel said. "She just needs to be a kid." "Agreed," Lane said. "But between you and me, I'm glad it happened." Daniel gave him a sharp look. "You're glad my daughter got hurt?" "No," Lane said quickly. "I'm glad we drew the line. I'm glad we made it clear what we value. I'm glad that kids like Emma will grow up in a galaxy that protects them." Daniel nodded slowly. He understood. The incident had been terrible. Emma's injury had been real. His fear and anger had been genuine. But the outcome had been important, worth it even. "To Emma," Lane said, raising his glass. "To all the children," Daniel corrected, "human and otherwise." They drank to that. In the home system, a new generation was being raised differently. Young learned about other species with more respect and understanding. They learned that different cultures valued different things. And they learned very clearly that human children were never to be harmed. The phrase entered language as a proverb. "Never strike a human child, for you strike all humanity." It was taught to every young along with their other lessons in civilized behavior. Ambassador served 5 years in human custody, during which time the former diplomat received extensive education on human culture, child psychology, and ethical behavior. Upon release, returned to space forever barred from diplomatic service, but also became a voice for change, speaking to Young about the mistakes that had been made and the lessons that needed to be learned. Emma Hayes grew up healthy and happy. She eventually joined the diplomatic corps herself, specializing in cross-cultural education. She met with leaders from dozens of species, teaching them about human values and learning about theirs. She was good at her job, in part because she genuinely liked people of all kinds. And everywhere she went, Emma was the safest person in the room, not just because of her guards or her diplomatic status, but because every species in the galaxy had learned the same lesson. You never harm a human child. Not ever. Not if you value your own survival. The galaxy had learned, and it had changed, all because a little girl in a yellow dress had spilled some juice and an arrogant diplomat had made a terrible mistake. Humanity had drawn a line, and the galaxy had accepted it. The children were safe, and that, in the end, was all that mattered. Outside the medical bay, outside the station, in the darkness between worlds, 68 human ships waited, and more were coming. The clock was ticking down. 6 hours remained. It's frightening, admitted. It should be, said, because it means we're serious. This is who humans are. This is what we value, and anyone who doesn't understand that is going to learn a hard lesson. Somewhere on the station, Emma Hayes slept peacefully, unaware that her injury had brought humanity to the brink of war. But she was safe, protected by her father, by the doctors, by the military, by billions of humans who would never let harm come to her or any child like her. That was the point. That was always the point. Every human everywhere is feeling it now, Lisa said, and the aliens are about to learn what that means. Through the window, another ship appeared in the distance. Then another, the lights of human vessels gathering, summoned by something older and deeper than law or logic. They came for Emma. They came for all the Emmas. And they would make sure it never happened again. Understand, they all would. You don't hurt human children. Not ever. Not without consequences.